This video demonstrates how to navigate around your model in Fairway using pan, zoom and rotate. In Fairway you navigate with the middle mouse button. That's the only thing the middle mouse button is used for in Fairway. In many mice the middle mouse button is integrated with the mouse wheel, which can be depressed. Other mice have a dedicated third button. If your mouse really has no third button and cannot be configured to simulate one, Fairway offers two alternatives. We'll talk about those later on. Panning can be done in two basic ways. First, you can simply press and hold the middle mouse button, then drag the drawing sideways. Secondly, you can just click anywhere on the screen with the middle mouse button, and that point will slide to the middle of the screen on its own. For zooming, there are several options. Firstly, you can use the mouse wheel to quickly zoom in or out. The point directly under the mouse pointer will stay there, so you can easily zoom in on a particular detail. Instead of panning, you can also zoom out and in to get to another section of the drawing. Zooming with the mouse wheel happens in discrete steps. For smooth zooms, you may use the control key in combination with the middle mouse button. If you can't use the keyboard and mouse at the same time because you are holding a phone or something, you may press and hold the middle mouse button, then press and hold the right mouse button in addition to obtain the same functionality. Once you have obtained the basic manipulation skills, be sure to try the following two tricks because they often come in very handy. Firstly, you can zoom in on a single curve by zoom clicking on it. It goes like this: hold down the control key and click with the middle mouse button, or hold down the middle mouse button and click with the right mouse button. If you do the same on the background, you will zoom out or in so the whole model fills the screen. That's the second trick. Now on to rotation. Rotation happens by using the middle mouse button in combination with the shift key. For mouse-only control, just press and hold the middle mouse button and press the left mouse button in addition. The relation between mouse movements and rotation axis in Fairway is different from most other CAD packages, and we've got feedback that it's also more efficient. This is how. If I move the mouse from side to side, the model rotates around its vertical axis. If you imagine the model standing on a turning table, then it's like grabbing the rim of the table and turn it. By moving the mouse away or towards me, it's like tilting the turning table, or seen the other way around, like elevating oneself over the model or lowering oneself under it. Yet the axis of the turning table does not change in relation to the model, so it still turns around the same axis. This way the model will not roll over. In perspective projection this is different though, but we will come to that later. You may wonder what is the center of rotation. If the whole model is visible, it just rotates around its center. But when zoomed in, only the visible part of the model is considered, so it roughly rotates around the center of the screen. There's one particularity worth noting. If you just zoomed all with the zoom click trick on the background, then if you rotate, the camera will dynamically zoom in and out to make optimal use of screen space. This stays on until you pan or zoom manually. There is a rotate click trick as well. If you click with the middle mouse button on a planar curve while holding the shift key, the model will reorient itself to show the curve flat on screen. If you repeat this, the model will flip 180 degrees to let you look from the other side. This works with any planar curve, not just frames, waterlines and buttocks. Of course, you can also do this single-handedly by holding the middle mouse button and clicking with the left mouse button. There's one more rotation trick. You can have the model spin on its own by releasing the mouse buttons while the mouse is still moving. It will continue to spin until the middle mouse button is pressed again. You can quickly shift between pan, zoom and rotate by depressing and releasing the modification keys or buttons. There's no need to release the middle button for that. Now what if your laptop doesn't have a middle mouse button or your mouse is made by Apple? There are two solutions as promised. The last one is actually the most productive, irrespective of the number of buttons on your mouse, so hang on. First, there is a switch in Fairway that makes the main mouse button act as the middle mouse button. It lives in the display menu and is called the navigation mode. It's operated by the F4 function key shortcut. If you prefer, you can bring out the toolbar icon so you have this functionality easily accessible. The second solution is not to buy a new 3-button mouse, but to go for a so-called 3D mouse. Fairway has built-in support for the Space Navigator and a smaller version for notebooks from 3D Connection. These devices make working with Fairway even more enjoyable, as they let you grab the model with your fingers and then smoothly move in 6 degrees of freedom. So you can orient the model with one hand and manipulate it with the other in quick succession. Space Navigators have 2 buttons on the side. The left button brings back the model in case you lost it, and the right button brings up the configuration panel of the device. Finally, let's talk about perspective. You change projection from within the context menu under the right mouse button, or the key combinations Ctrl and Shift and O or P. In perspective projection, zooming is not literally zooming, which would mean that the focal length would change. It is more properly called dollying, meaning that the camera itself moves forwards and backwards. This gives you a fly-through effect. The dollying is done over a ray shot through the mouse pointer. So again, by dollying in and out to different directions, you can effectively move the camera sideways without changing its orientation. In orthographic projection, this sideways motion was the same as panning, but in perspective projection, panning means rotation around the camera center. The funny thing is that this implies that the camera can roll if successive panning is done over different axes. If you first bend over to look down, then turn our head right, waterlines run vertically over our screen. Lifting our head in the direction of our eyebrows shows us the ship laying on its side, but it's just us, our head ended up tilted. You get the control of a roll by panning with large circular mouse movements, which makes the camera roll in the direction of the circles by the same principle. Easier yet is to just rotate-click on the appropriate planar curve. After that, our camera is exactly level. In perspective projection, it is especially fun to use the 3D mouse, which gives an almost tactile, spacious experience. This enables you to evaluate the shape of a ship in much the same way as you would examine a physical model. Now you know everything there is to know about navigation in Fairway. Whenever you need a quick recap, there is a handy reference chart in a manual and help file. In our next video, we will talk about curves and how to select them, and about the visual clues you are given about the properties of curves.